Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners pregame podcast brought to you by and powered by Jana King. Parker, take it away.
Yes, folks, Jana King is the new title sponsor of the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast. Very pleased, very excited to have them on board. Jana King is the greatest team to ever clean and a proud partner of OU Athletics. They deliver spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. You can check them out at janaking.com, JANIKING.com for unbeatable commercial cleaning services. Go Sooners. That is Jana King, folks. Also, a quick reminder, if you haven't already, go download the Autograph app, click link.ag.fan/boomer, and use promo code BOOMER to get started today.
Is that it? We have
That's
no
it?
other ones?
No, let's
look at us
go.
roll. OU, Tennessee. As of this morning, 7-point dogs at home. It looks like the money line is the smart money, if you will. The late money is what they deem the smart money. Tennessee fans, we're not calling it the smart money because people are betting on Oklahoma. Let's get that clear to you guys. But that's what they call it. They call it the smart money when it's late money is starting to bet on Oklahoma after the injury report that was dropped yesterday about 7:04 p.m. 4 minutes past its due date and its due time on a Wednesday night. You have Andrew Anthony probable. You have Nick Anderson probable. You have Troy Everett probable. The questionable part with the weird part is they have Branson Hickman is questionable, and he was the one that everybody thought was more likely to play than Everett, even the people within the program. So this is just, I think he's Belichicking us.
Oh, no doubt he is to some extent. There's some gamesmanship going on. There has to be now that all these injury reports are public. Sorry, not injury reports, availability reports. My bad. There's no, you don't see a red dot on my chest, do you?
Right. And don't call it the 2-minute warning either. It's 2-minute timeout.
God,
But
that's so stupid.
But that is going to be interesting to monitor, right? We should track the first few weeks of how many questionables actually play, if all the probables play, everything like that, because this is the first time we've ever done it, right? We get a lot of, should be ready soon, might give it a go, all the different types of phrases they use. Well, now we've got specifics. How often does Brent Venables play the people who are questionable? Does a doubtful get on the field? Anything like that. So it will be interesting to track over the first couple weeks. But yes, there is absolutely gamesmanship going on, not only on our side, but on the Tennessee side as well.
I mean, but how much can the SEC actually police that? Like, honestly, like how much can they, for betting purposes?
Oh, we're getting political here.
I don't even know, man. Like I'm delirious. My daughter's got an ear infection, so she's had a rough month. So is mom and dad. Yeah. So the betting lines, like how much can they police it just to make things right for those that are laying money on it on the games? Because that was what that was for, anyways. Is to have more money pushed
it all
into
comes
the
back
SEC.
to gambling.
Yeah.
It all comes back to gambling.
How do you police that?
You can't.
I mean, well, and I think what the powers that be across college football have come to realize over the last 5 years experientially is that no matter how much you try and police things, you can never quite police everything.
Yeah.
Well, and we talk about on the policing, like, last year we talked about it a bunch with how do you police guys getting hurt at the end of plays and dropping to the ground just to stop the clock against pace, right? Like, it's when you're dealing with the health of athletes, it is impossible to police because, sorry, he told me his leg hurt. What am I supposed to do? Call him a liar? In the main, like, you look at the NFL, right? Like, especially all this Tua stuff and whatnot, DeMar Hamlin in the past, like, it's like injuries, if they start like even suggesting that, no, you're faking an injury, you're doing all that, that is the real political nightmare, is not taking injuries seriously enough. So it's the same problem you run into with people taking a dive. I mean, we have video evidence of coaches in the SEC saying, get down, or two guys looking at each other, one goes down, gets up, the other one goes down. Like it's been painfully obvious at times, but you can't punish it because who are you to say these kids aren't hurt, right? So
No
it's the
doubt.
same thing that goes into these injury reports is what if Branson Hickman's, questionable? Who's to tell Brent Venables or the staff otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And are they giving these guys percentages to play? Hey, Brent Venables, here's your guideline to fill out this report. If there's a 50% or better than this, that or the other. We don't know what information Brent's been given. That would be a heck of a question at a press conference for those that are at the press conference. But it's what kind of guidelines is the SEC sending? Because they didn't just send a sheet that says, D for doubtful, Q for questionable, P for probable, whatever, and say, fill out some names here. They had to have given some type of guideline, rubric type thing to work with.
Yeah. And then you have and it's the weirdest thing ever, guys. For the last week and a half, there's been a rumor going around about Andrew Anthony retiring potentially. And we've had people come up on our message boards. The only reason why I'm bringing it up now is because it's out in the ether. And everybody's talking about it because we have people that are reporting that he is leaning towards retiring and or told the team he was retiring, which I don't know that I buy. He's listed as probable. And then all of a sudden he's never playing football again, which doesn't make sense.
If Andrew Anthony was retiring from football, I don't think Brent Venables would have listed him on the injury report at all, let alone listed him as probable.
Totally with you on that. Let's
talk about gamesmanship.
Yeah, well, let's come out. Let's be the devil's advocate here, and let's say they didn't expect it to happen, and he just all of a sudden decided to do it. And what we had heard, and if you watched the live the other day, Parker and I were talking about Andrew Anthony, and I brought it up without saying it. And if you go on OU Insider, I linked the exact spot on the live when it took place. And I said, well, what if he never plays again? Because there was people talking about that potentially being an issue. And I don't know that I buy it. So we are not reporting that that is the case. It is a rumor. It sounds ridiculous, but it's out there and it's been talked about by everybody right now. And it doesn't, there's a lot that doesn't make sense. So that again goes into the gamesmanship part. That again goes into and it's a weird gamesmanship part. That again goes into the Vegas lines, right? Like I find it interesting that it was like 84% was to Tennessee. And now within like a 12-hour span, it's down to 60, a little under 60% towards Tennessee. Like everybody's starting to bet on Oklahoma, either covering the spread or winning outright right now. That's, if you're an Oklahoma fan, how should that make you feel? Like, are you starting to feel more confident after reading that injury report? Are you starting to feel better about your chances? Does it make that much of it? We know Anderson does.
Yeah.
But is the offensive line going to make that much of a difference? Because obviously Everett hasn't played at all this year. He's been back for a whole week and a half, 2 weeks. And Branson Hickman has been hit or miss since fall camp.
Here's I guess the way that I look at it is, what did that injury report tell you that you didn't already know? Because
for us, yes, but nationally.
Yeah, well, but again, like nationally, the narrative's not going to change, and it hasn't changed. The narrative nationally is Tennessee's going to handle business. Oklahoma's not in a place to be able to counter everything that Tennessee's going to bring to the table. Now, I think there's a little bit more optimism from the OU side because there's a little bit more recognizance of the impact that Nick Anderson has on this offense. The reality that you've been working with a patchwork offensive line in the absence of guys like Branson Hickman and Troy Everett. I don't know if the national media is too terribly well educated on Oklahoma right now, as we found out yesterday when apparently Drake Stoops was back for a 7th year and is Oklahoma's leading receiver right now. So like that again underscores the reality that I think there's just a lot more attention paid, and there has been a lot more attention paid to what Tennessee has done through 3 weeks than what Oklahoma has done through 3 weeks. And
Lack of respect.
well, not necessarily a lack of respect, but
Just being
maybe
uninformed.
well, and I get it because if you're working a national gig, you got to cover what 60 P4 teams.
Mhm.
And we only have to cover what obviously we know everything that's going on with Oklahoma. We have strong perspective on Oklahoma, but from a national standpoint, I think the thought process is, well, we won't pay a whole lot of attention to Oklahoma yet because we don't have to pay a whole lot of attention to Oklahoma yet.
Mm. I
See,
mean,
I think a lot of the national storyline has been, and I get that Texas takes up a lot of oxygen in the room and a lot of column inches and minutes on segments and everything like that, but especially with Arch now playing. So
mm,
that's going to just get more and more national attention. But I mean, the big question for the last 3 years has been how will Oklahoma and Texas fare in the SEC? How will Oklahoma and Texas fare to go in the SEC? So I think while I do agree that these national guys got to cover 60 teams. It's like this has been the culmination of 3 years worth of takes that are about to get paid off, either to look
right.
silly or either to look right. So if anything, Oklahoma, they've been a ranked team all year. They've been ranked in the mid teens, the upper side of that. So theoretically, that team should get a decent amount of coverage. And then the SEC move should get even more coverage. But like, there's, I don't know, maybe I just am a bit ignorant to the national perspective in general because I haven't had to go up there and cover every team, and I just am so floored by people that come in and treat it like a fun fact that they're telling everybody, hey, by the way, his son Drake Stoops, leading receiver for the Sooners. Like, not even like somebody asked him, said, hey, Adam, who leads the Sooners in receiving? And he's so bogged down with all this coverage. He's like, I don't know, Drake Stoops. Like, no, he entered it into the conversation when it
Mhm.
didn't need to be in the conversation. And it wasn't that he's on the roster, it's that he's leading the team in receiving. And I don't know
What
what
made the
that
storyline with Stoops and Heupel so much more juicy, though? That's all that did. That's all they were
right.
trying to do.
But that's what's so annoying is like not that he's not on the team, he's leading the team in receiving. That might just say, hey man, Oklahoma's hardly throwing the ball. They're hardly getting any, passing yardage as it is. Drake is almost leading the team in receiving, and he's not even on the team. So I don't know. Maybe it's a shot at our passing offense right now. But anyways, like I said, maybe I'm just ignorant to the national perspective.
No.
But it seems like the storylines have been there all year to at least know a decent amount about OU besides box score watching.
So I disagree on it not being a slight at Oklahoma. It's a freaking slight at Oklahoma. Like you knew all year long that week 4 was Oklahoma, Tennessee. It was Heupel, Oklahoma, his alma mater, the team that let him go as offensive coordinator after they went 8-4, and now he's one of the best head coaches in college football, which is not. It's not. Nobody's going to debate that, but how do you not know more about the University of Oklahoma if you're national media? A powerhouse, a team that was 10-3 last year, was one win away from being. They were 2 plays away from going to the playoff. Like, what are we? What? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. It has to do with the flyover state thing and not being Texas, and that's it. That's what it is. That's what it gets down to. At the end of the day, you weren't a part of the SEC, and you're not Texas. And since Texas is the number 1 team in the country, and that's who everybody hyped up going into the season, just kind of gloss over Oklahoma. It's everybody picked Oklahoma 6-6 nationally. We're gonna find out just how good Oklahoma is this week. Don't get me wrong. Like, gonna find out. But it is kind of frustrating. Like, when we cover it and we see just how wrong they are about so many stats and facts with the University of Oklahoma, personnel wise and everything, it gets frustrating to sit there and go, like, how do you not know this? Like, I get you have to do other guys, but College Game Days in Norman this week, and you don't know who the hell the leading receiver. You don't know who Deion Burks is. Like,
Well, it's not that they don't know who Deion Burks is. It's the fact that they think that Drake Stoops is still on the team and leading
I
the.
understand that
But
that
but
makes it
but
worse.
but we will all find out this weekend. There is a game this weekend, so let's talk about
Yeah.
the actual game this weekend. Let's move into the actual what's going to happen on the field. What are your guys' early vibes? I guess not that early vibes. I mean, this is the pregame pod. So what are your not that early vibes on it?
You know, I mentioned this in a YouTube video yesterday, right here on this very channel, if you're tuning in via YouTube. But you know, everybody is seemingly talking about this game as the game where Jackson Arnold needs to have a breakout performance, or the game where Nick Anderson needs to reassert himself decisively, or what have you. And all those things are true. Don't get me wrong. I think Jackson Arnold has to outperform Nico, and I think Nick Anderson has to be involved and all that good stuff, yada yada yada. But to me, I guess what I have been noodling on the last couple of days is, what if this is the Zach Alley statement game?
Mm.
What if this is the game where everybody across the nation on Sunday morning kind of turns their collective head to Norman, Oklahoma, after the Sooners just laid down a staunch defensive effort against this Tennessee offense? And everybody kind of had the collective realization in real time. Oh, Brent Venables knew what he was doing, going and grabbing a 31-year-old from Jacksonville State to call his defense. Maybe, maybe when he made a decision that was that out of left field, from a national perspective, obviously we know why Venables did it, but maybe that move that might have seemed surprising to folks that aren't entrenched in the Sooner State, maybe we should have paid a little bit more attention to that. Maybe we should have taken that a little bit more seriously when it happened.
I agree, because I think the biggest storyline outside of the OU offensive line versus the Tennessee defensive line and is Oklahoma stopping Sampson in the run game and Imalilava in the run game for Tennessee. I think that has to happen. And that ultimately goes back to Zach Alley. It ultimately goes back to, Brent Venables and this defense personnel on the defense. How many people can they put in the box, right? Versus Tennessee, are they gonna have 6, 7 guys in the box? Are they gonna have 5 in the box? Like, are they gonna be light, heavy, depending on personnel, like all that type of stuff? Like, Heupel's going to make them decide, how are you going to defend him? That's exactly what they do. That's exactly what that offense does. That's what OU's offense is supposed to do. It's the exact same offense, but they have not succeeded at it nor executed at the level that Tennessee has. Granted, different competition, all that type of stuff, but I just that to me, you're right. That's where it ultimately lies. Like, Zach Alley's either going to be, he's either going to come out goated, knighted, all that type of stuff, or he's going to come out looking quite the opposite. So it's going to be interesting, because this defense for Oklahoma matches up well with Tennessee.
Yeah.
Now, can they execute in this magnitude of the game? And hey, a lot of it goes back to the crowd too. Like, how much can the crowd be a distraction?
And
That's going to help the defense.
it was funny. I was having a conversation with somebody in another SEC market yesterday, and they said, with this Tennessee offense, the crowd matters. It does.
Yes.
If the crowd gets into the football game, that can rattle these guys. So with that as background, again, I come back to Zach Alley because naturally the game plan, for the most part, during the week is primarily in the hands of Brent Venables. His fingerprints are going to be all over everything that Oklahoma does scheme-wise. What are you swatting at? You got a fly in the room?
I have a stupid ass fly in here. It's driving me crazy. Like, I'm about to go nuts. It keeps landing and crossing my face while I'm trying to talk and landing on my screen. That's why I went off there, because earlier I went on a rampage when I turned off my sound in my screen. And the thing's too quick. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm getting mad at this thing. Go ahead.
That's got to be how Josh Heupel feels after seeing Oklahoma's defense for 60 minutes on Saturday night.
Yes, there you go.
There you go. There's your parallel. But
Yeah, there you go.
man, obviously the game plan is going to be primarily in Venables' hands throughout the week. He is the premier defensive coach in college football, but as he himself has acknowledged in one of his post-game press conferences a couple of weeks back, Brandon, Zach Alley is the one calling the shots. When it
Yeah.
comes down to it, like when they get on the field on Saturday, Zach Alley is the one dialing up the plays for this
Do you
Oklahoma.
believe that
So
though? Third and long, fourth down, games, 3-point ball game. Oklahoma needs to make a stop. Is Brent Venables calling it, or is Zach Alley calling it?
I think Zach Alley's calling it. Now,
Ooh.
yeah, well, I mean, obviously 2022 and 2023 when Ted Roof was here, we all
Is
kind
he
of
calling
understood.
what Brent Venables tells him to call is a better question.
Well, no, I just think like there's enough. And look, I'm not putting it past Venables to go ahead and override a call if he feels like he sees one thing or maybe his perspective varies a little bit from Alley's. But for the most part, this is why you brought in Alley, right?
Yeah.
So that you don't have to play puppet
Be CEO.
master with your
Yeah.
defense and your defensive coordinator. And that was kind of Ted Roof's role. And we knew that was Ted Roof's role, be an extension of Brent Venables' arm. Well, you don't necessarily have to have that same degree of oversight with Zach Alley. If you did, you wouldn't have gone and hired him. But as we look ahead to this game Saturday night, this is Zach Alley's first real litmus test. This is the biggest game he's ever coached in, guys. The biggest game Alley has ever coached in his young coaching career. And so if he is ready for the big time, if he is indeed as ready as Venables felt he was when he went out of his way to go hire him this past offseason, I believe that becomes evident this Saturday night. So this is a prove it game for Zach Alley as much as it is for Jackson Arnold or any individual player on Oklahoma's roster. And I'm really, really excited to see what type of performance he turns in. And ultimately the execution's up to the players, right? You dial it up, but the players got to go execute it. But what if when this game goes final, everybody across the entirety of this fan base and even nationally is tipping their cap to Zach Alley and the job that he does against Josh Heupel?
See, I think yes, I'm coming to the perspective of that it's a defense game, a decent defensive storyline game. But I don't think it's a Zach Alley game. I think it's a specific Brent Venables game because 3 years ago when he got hired, he was the one that stood up in front of everybody and talked about, the suffocating, relentless, that whole clip is going to be played, if this game goes well, right? It's not going to be, oh, they brought in Zach Alley and Zach Alley fixed the defense. It's going to be you hired Brent Venables to come in here and put the best defense on the country on the field because that's what he did when he was at Clemson. That's what he did when he was at Oklahoma. And you hired him to come and do that. Now, when schedules came out or when SEC announced, he had already been hired, but when schedules came out, that Tennessee game got circled. He knew I'm going against an offense that I know well. The last time I saw Heupel, I coached against a Heupel offense. We beat him 40-6.
Yeah, it's a different offense, but yeah.
Regardless, he got fired a week later. But regardless, he's had the veer and shoot on the same team. Levy used to run it extremely quickly, not quite as quickly as Heupel runs it. Heupel, that's the thing. When people are looking at the snap metrics and how much time they're taking in between snap, throw that out the window right now because Tennessee has been slowing it down in the second half and really dropping those first snaps. Go back and look at the first few drives of their first 3 games. It is lightning fast, but it's something that Brent Venables is comfortable with. I think it's something that Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman are comfortable with. And I think this is all right, Brent, we brought you in. This is year 3. We brought you in to put a dominant defense on the field. Well, now you've got Heupel coming in, high-flying offense. This is your opportunity to show. Because what if the defense gets ripped apart? What if Tennessee puts up 40 on you? What does that say about Brent Venables? What did you hire Brent Venables for? And if year 3 he's getting shredded, with his defense, is he still the best defensive mind in the country at that point? Is he a top 5 defensive mind, top 10 defensive mind in the country at that point? Because that's what you hired. That's what you brought in, is the best defensive mind in football. If in year 3, with all SEC players, All-American players, national award, semifinalists, finalists, all this, defensive lineman of the week with Nagurski, defensive lineman of the SEC player of the week, all this, that, and the other, and that defense gets shredded, then there are going to be national perspectives that say Brent Venables doesn't know defense anymore. Brent Venables was, he was a whiff. This Oklahoma leadership whiffed on the hire because that's why you brought him in. So that's where I'm thinking this is a Brent Venables statement game, because Zach Alley, as you said, he's 31 years old. If he gets torched by him, nobody's going to say, shouldn't have hired Zach Alley. He's already a bust at 31 years old in the biggest, position of his career. I think they'll look at the guy who's been known as the best defensive mind over the last 20 years, with Saban and Smart and those guys, in those same breaths as, okay, well, the turning Oklahoma into a defensive juggernaut, we're in year 3 and they're still getting shredded. Yeah, maybe this isn't the right fit. I think that will be the national perspective.
No, you're right. You're right, because Parker's right and you're right. Like they both can be true, by the way. Because what you're saying is it doesn't matter what Zach Alley does. Brent Venables is either going to be lauded or, looked down upon nationally because
they think Drake Stoops is on the team. You think they know Zach Alley's name?
No, facts. That's facts. So like, and I agree with you. And I was about to say earlier that I thought, like, it doesn't matter what Zach Alley does. Like, I think it's a game for him, but ultimately Brent Venables is the one that's going to get credit for it. Right or wrong, indifferent. He's the one that's going to get credit for it, or he's going to get shunned for it. That's what's going to happen.
Well, and this is the type of game, right, where regardless of what happens, regardless of how it happens, regardless of the outcome, the two guys that are either going to get all the glory or all the fingers pointing at them are your head coach and your starting quarterback.
Or
Venables, Jackson Arnold.
Or Levy at this point. No, sorry, Latrell. Sorry, I said Levy. Latrell. See, even I'm doing
still stuck in the Levy days, huh?
Yeah.
But I will say, Roof caught a lot of arrows last year saying, "Oh man," even Twitter accounts that were
he did. But
right,
again,
but that were saying like, "Oh man, this guy, why we bring this guy in?" But to finish my point, I do think that this is a game that Brent Venables steps up to. You know what I mean? Like, he knows what's on the line for him personally. It is wildly dramatic to say this, and I understand this, but Brent Venables could prove the extension right with this game. If he gets 40 or 50 hung on him, there are going to be a lot of people that say, "Wow, good job extending the defensive guru that got half 100 hung on him at home." Like, that's a major thing in Brent Venables' career. That is a fork in the road at Brent Venables' career. So I think that he's had this game circled. I think that you're going to see defensive stuff that has Nico's mind in a blender. Heupel can't do the things in scouting and everything like that Brent Venables and Zach Alley can come up with together for this game. And I do think that this is a game that they've been preparing for all year, and because they know the importance of it. And you bring up the crowd on the road last year. That offense got rocked. You put up 16 at Florida against.
Yeah, they had Milton as quarterback though.
Yeah, well, he's in the NFL. Nico's played 3 games, so if you want to,
I know, but
Nico to be a number one pick this year, then go ahead.
But I just don't think he was a very good quarterback. I still don't think he's a good quarterback. Even in the NFL, he's a running quarterback.
That's fine, but he was putting up 40 points a game on other teams. So you either have a not very good quarterback who just gets lucky against all the other teams, or an offense that is built on rhythm and pace and everything.
Josh
like
Heupel as the OC.
And exactly. And it's okay. They went into Missouri and scored 7 points. Bama held them to 20, Florida held them to 16, Georgia held them to 10. 3 of those games were on the road. So you start looking at that and say, how is it that this team scores 40, 50 against everybody in the country, but then when they get on the road, they're able to score 7 points? Do we think Missouri's defense last year is better than Oklahoma's defense this year? Maybe. We'll have to see how they play.
held Ohio State to 3, Travis. What are you talking about? Third string quarterback for Ohio State couldn't score on them.
But that's the thing. We have evidence of what Parker talked about with his unnamed SEC source. Like on the road, if the crowd can get them off their rhythm, make it tough for them to communicate, if you can get some plays early, a sack, a pick, a PBU, an offsides, or a false start call. Like you get that kind of stuff going and don't allow them to get in the rhythm of downhill, then you can really start cooking because we can say, you can say whatever you want about the quarterback. Nico has never played in an environment like he's about to
He
see.
hasn't. Nope.
He's been on the bench with it, and everybody's going to bring up his quote, from when I think he was in high school at the time, but he's like, I like playing on the road more than I like playing at home. I like those hostile environments.
I've already heard that like 15 times this week, by the way.
Well, but what's he supposed to say? Hey,
Yeah.
Nico, what do you think about playing on the road?
Terrifies me.
Man, I'm seeing ghosts out there, man. I hope
My
I only
butthole puckers
play the
up when I
home
see that
game.
crowd.
I hope they don't chant Boomer Sooner because I don't think I'll be ready for it. Like, come on now. Like what? You can't you ask any quarterback in the country and they're gonna say, man, I really like playing on the road, going into a hostile environment and really shutting them up. So like quotes like that, throw them out the window. Like talk to me, in the middle of the game if you've got 85,000 strong in your ear the whole time. Like, I'm sorry, you might like the adrenaline of it, but it makes your job more difficult. It just is what it is. Like if we were doing pods right now and maybe there was a fly flying around, it would make your job more difficult, don't you think, Brandon?
It does. It's been annoying. It's still flying around. I keep seeing it just cross my face. I'm sure people are noticing on the screen too. Pissing me off is what it's doing. Anyways, yeah, no, you're right. I I want to ask you all this. Outside of the obvious, the trenches, right? I think we all agree the trenches are probably the most important aspect of this ball game. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Both sides of the ball. For me, I think the most important other aspect in this game for Oklahoma specifically, and I'm talking about the defensive side of the ball. We can talk about the offensive side of the ball in a minute. Is the edges. And I'm not talking about the edge rushers. I'm talking about the cornerbacks for Oklahoma. They have to play fantastic
They do.
on Saturday night. They have to because they're going to get put out on an island on several occasions. I know that they're going to mix zone in quite a bit as far as coverage. They're going to disguise a lot of things, bring blitzes, and it all depends on down and distance. And I think that's what people need to understand. Like Venables doesn't really bring a lot of craziness until he's got you in like a 3rd and 5 plus. At that point, boom, all bets are off. You aren't going to know what's coming at you, and that's by design. So you're going to need a Kenai Walker. You're going to need a Woody Washington, Des Malone, a Jacoby Johnson, an Eli Bowen. They've got to play great on Saturday. They have to, because I'm looking at the stats of Tennessee, and their receivers like to catch the ball, and they like to catch the ball about 40 yards down the field, and they like to go over the top of you. So you better be prepared for that. And the sucky part is you have to be watching out for the run game at the same time. That's what Heupel's offense does, the Browse offense does to you. It puts you on your heels. You don't know what's coming at you. There's a lot of RPO coming at you, and it really is confusing to the defense at times. So they've got to play perfect, guys. For you, who else do you all think needs to play on the defensive side of the ball just outstanding for Oklahoma to win?
I mean, this is a very, very obvious choice here, but Danny Stutzman has got to have an outstanding day because, I mean, well, and like he's your best linebacker. He's one of the nation's best linebackers, and he's got to play like one of the nation's best linebackers. There's going to be a lot that is placed upon Danny Stutzman in this football game because outside of making all the calls and all the checks from his post at linebacker, man, he's going to have to be flowing to the ball. He's going to have to be closing up run lanes. He's going to have to be the enforcer, the guy that Tennessee fears when they try to run the ball up the middle. Because in as much as you can limit the damage from the Volunteers' rushing attack, you're going to have to do that in order to win this football game. If you put the game in Nico's hands, if you put the game on his arm, if you will, then I think you have a very clear recipe for victory there. Make him make a couple of mistakes and don't make those same mistakes offensively and give Tennessee the chance to match you blow for blow. If you can win the turnover battle, you can pick Nico off a couple of times. If you can take the football away and not give it back, then I think you have a very strong chance, especially with the crowd behind you, to go win this football game. But if Tennessee can establish a consistent presence on the ground and they can lean on that in early down situations and they can just pound the rock on first and second down. And if you don't get to the sticks on those two downs, you set your offense up in highly manageable third down situations. Well, then it's going to exhaust your defense and Tennessee's going to be able to sustain drives and ultimately they're going to put points on the board. And if you let Tennessee dictate the pace of the game, if you let them, I guess if you let them make you play their game, then that's where things get a whole lot more difficult. I also think, and I brought this up the other day on the radio, I also think that Josh Heupel is going to come into this game, to quote Josh Pate, out for blood. Because I don't entirely buy the notion, that there is lingering active animosity between Heupel and I don't think he hates the University of Oklahoma, but I also
He
think he's
doesn't.
certainly going to be more motivated than usual to go and make a statement and win this game. What does that look like in terms of the aggression with which he coaches, especially early in this football game? His offensive coordinator is another former Oklahoma guy in Joey Halsley, right? So if Heupel is truly out for blood and he's coaching more aggressively than usual, well, can you force him and force his team into a couple mistakes that might not occur if they were a little bit more even keel, level headed in the way that they were approaching this one? Again, I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that that's how Heupel's coming in, but I get the very strong sense that naturally there's going to be more motivation to make a definitive statement with this football game than there typically would be for these balls.
So he doesn't have any like real animosity towards like a lot of the things that people have harped up on and made a big deal on. There's a lot of amends have been made over the years. And he's very open about that. His relationship with everybody. Venables talked about it. Like there's still a strong relationship. He literally talked about how that staff, like there are people that were in his wedding, like part of his groomsmen on the staff at Oklahoma right now. Like he's close to everybody. There's no ill will. That said, his family still has some strong animosity towards how things went down, and rightfully so. They still live in the state of Oklahoma. I do think though, if he gets on Oklahoma and gets up by 14, he's going to try to stick his foot on their neck and not let them up. And it's not a haha, you screwed up type deal. It's one, he wants to show how powerful his team is. Two, I think it's a long-term move. Like, let's say, Josh Heupel's 42, 41. Let's say Josh Heupel or Venables decides 5-6 years from now to retire. Who do you think the first call is going to go to? If Heupel is still doing what he's doing at Tennessee, it's going to be Josh Heupel.
You think?
Why wouldn't it be?
Do you think Heupel would leave
I do.
that talent fee they're adding onto all the tickets to pay for all their?
Well, I think everybody's going to be doing that here pretty soon. So,
No, but on the, I think that's a good point. The out for blood is interesting to me because I think that he's been a head coach long enough. Not that he's been this long time head coach, but he's been a head coach long enough to have a good season, a disappointing season. He's kind of been through it.
yep.
Right? And the SEC kind of baptizes your coaching experience a little bit more dramatically than say the Mountain West. So
Or
like
Big 12.
right, but with Josh, he's been a very public head coach, public figure for a long time, national champion, like, this, that, and the other. But I think it's more that he understands the entirety of the bottom half of the SEC is like, Josh, get in there and and just wreck these newcomers, wreck Oklahoma. I think a lot of the animosity of oh, my former employer wronged me. Like, I would think that's like 5% of his motivation going into this game. He
Mm-hmm.
has an opportunity to jump into maybe top 3 if they throttle us, and maybe top 4, something like that. A lot of people would be like, that might be the best team in the country right there. Like, he's
Yep.
never had that as a head coach. He's never had a game where he can come out of it on the other side and people say that's the best team in the country. Even when they beat Alabama, like, it was an upset type
We'll see
situation.
what they do against Georgia later on, is what everybody was saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like, if they come in, and I know we're not a top 5 team, but if they come in and throttle us, there will be a lot of people around the country, especially with game day there and with all these national voices there, saying Josh Heupel's got the best team in America right now. And he knows that if he does that, that is the first time in his life that anybody has ever said that about him. That is what's at stake in this game, as well as all of his other conference buddies saying, hey, man, these newcomers, it's your turn. This is the first SEC game that they're going to play. This is going to be written, in the history books of Oklahoma's first SEC game. This is historic. It needs to be remembered as Tennessee came in there and wrecked shop. I think that's where his mindset is. I don't think it's something. I don't think the former employer angle is fueling very much of his motivation, to be honest.
No, I 100% agree. Like I said, I just don't think that that's where its head's at. I think the animosity thing is completely overblown. But it's a good storyline, right?
An
Like
easy
everybody,
national story.
it's just low hanging fruit for everybody, and they're gonna make a big deal about it. And that's all we're gonna hear about during college game day, is the animosity between Bob Stoops and Josh Heupel and blah blah blah. Man, it's not even there anymore. So it's weird. Um, the running back, the running game. Venables came out and said they need to find somebody to be that guy.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm at with this. You have Gavin Stalchuk, who hasn't been able to get going, but he also hasn't really had good carries. He started off pretty good last game, and then all of a sudden just was gone. But it just kind of disappeared. Barnes played okay. He still can't make anybody miss in the open field. It's really hard to watch. And then you have Taylor Tatum, who's obviously the most exciting guy, but he can't pick up an easy 6-man blocking scheme blitz to save his life because he's a freshman and he gets lost out there at times, and it shows, and it's hurt Oklahoma on a few third downs. He's gotten Arnold just absolutely killed. And you started seeing them, they would have Tatum in there and they would bring Barnes or Sawchuk in to block, or run slip out routes after nobody came on the blitz, right? How do you get that going? Like, how do you choose this? Like, DeMarco's going to have to figure out a rotation and a proper rotation. He did it finally last year, but it took him like 6 games. Obviously, the injuries had a lot to do with that last year with the running back situation. They're healthy this year. They're deep. But we still don't know who the guy really is. Like, and I think that has more to do with the run game issues and I was told that. I was literally told that last year it had to do with the running backs. This year it has everything to do, like the holes are there at times. The running backs just aren't hitting them the way they're supposed to. Or on the flip side, they said there are times where it's just the offensive lineman is doing bad and the running backs get blamed for that. Like the running backs have been blamed for it more than the offensive line, ironically, this year. How do you find a guy in you guys' opinion? Like, how do you find that guy? You just ride or die with somebody until it doesn't work?
I mean, I'm just glad that I'm not DeMarco Murray and I have to figure out who my RB1 is moving forward, because I don't think any of those 3 guys has really laid a strong claim to that role through 3 weeks. I don't know if anybody even has the leg up on anybody else, because I think the most high risk, high reward option is certainly Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
The most low risk, low reward option is probably Javonte Barnes. You know what you're getting. Maybe you're sacrificing the home run ability that Gavin Sawchuk and Taylor Tatum bring to the table, but You know what you're getting, and it's pretty stable and it's pretty consistent with Javonte Barnes. And then Sawchuk's just an enigma, man, because we have enough of a sample size to understand that he's an absolute stud. But by the same token, that just hasn't really showed up on film through 3 weeks. He's got 16 carries for 35 yards. I can't put a finger on why that is, why he hasn't been able to get it going. I don't think you bail on him with what he did down the stretch in 2023. I don't think you can. But who do you this weekend, the first 3 drives of the game, who are you handing the ball to? Because you're
Probably
not
Sawchuk to start and then let it go from there. But I say you're right. I know people are going to hate this take. I go Sawchuk and Tatum
well, here's
just
what
because
I
you
think.
have to have a home run.
Yeah, well, here's
I would go Barnes and Tatum personally. It really feels like, and this is the most dramatic oversimplification that I've probably ever given on the spot, but it feels like Sawchuk, once he gets through the line, can be a home run hitter, but he hasn't been able to get through the line yet. He hasn't been able to break just through an arm tackle on the line. Javonte Barnes can get through the line, but once he gets through the line, he doesn't have the ability to hit the home run. Tatum can get through the line, can hit the home run, but again, he's been a liability early in picking up blitz. He did get better throughout the game against Tulane. In Jackson's, kind of closing the door touchdown run, he stayed, picked up a blitz. Him and Ozada moved him over. That lane was right there for Jackson. That's the one that he took. So, I think he's getting better. I think if we just say that those are their shortcomings, I think I trust Tatum to get better at run blocking, or at least them to be able to
In pass blocking,
in pass blocking. I'm sorry, aid him in pass blocking with a tight end, with another back, whatever. I trust them to be able to help out with that, or him to get better than I do for Barnes all of a sudden to get a heck of a lot faster, or Sawchuk to be able to break through the line, break those tackles like we need him to do. And I have a tough time right now, again, through 3 games, trotting Sawchuk out there to start, because he threw 16 carries. Again, Parker just said it. He's got 30-something yards.
he hasn't had the holes those two have had either. Not even go
Well,
watch it. Not even close.
Okay, cool. Are they all of a sudden going to make holes against the best defensive line that we've seen? So you're going to throw Sawchuk out there against a defensive line that we're planning on separating? I just don't think you can trust it to be like, hey, guys, we're 4 games in now. We got to give Sawchuk 15 to 20 carries to really see if, let's continue to go with it so he can get in a rhythm. I think it's time to say, you know what? Go with the upside kid. If we got to bring somebody else to help block, go for it. But last year Sawchuk went on one of the best 5-6 game streaks we've seen in Oklahoma in a long time, but it just hasn't been there through 3 games. And I don't trust, if you think the offensive line's been the issue, are they going to all of a sudden fix everything against and open up wide lanes for him against Tennessee's defensive line?
I mean, I don't think you need wide lane. He's had no lanes. If you go watch it, and I think everybody's talked about it, there has literally been nothing. He's gotten like the first 2 or 3 carries of the game. And if you ever watch a game, like nobody gets going on the first 2 or 3 carries. Like you don't gain a bunch of yards the first 2 or 3 times you run the ball to start a game. Go watch any college football game. There's never been like the first carry. It's like, 20-yard run. Like it never happens. It's like a 2-yard run. The home crowd cheers. It gets real loud because everybody's hyped up. The defense plays well. The run's coming. That's what it is. But we haven't really got to see him second, third series, fourth series, see what happens on that. Like we did last year. And that was kind of the thing last year. Everybody was like, Sawchuk didn't really get going until like 5 or 6 carries in, which is true. That's any running back, though. That's any running back. That's any offensive line. You're just not going to start going. And I think what you saw last year, he just didn't stop being that guy. He just didn't stop being that guy. That's just he has the potential to be one of the best running backs in the SEC. He is not playing like that right now. There's a lot of variables that make that the issue. If he got a hole, like you're saying they can't open holes, but yet they have middle of the game for Bates and Tatum, or excuse me, Barnes and Tatum. Why can't they, if you threw Sawchuk out there, a lot of those big holes that Barnes ran through, that's a touchdown. You know what I mean? Like he's gone.
No, I get it, and I like I said, you said I said they're not going to open wide lanes. You said he's had no lanes. Like, well, then if they're not going to open any lanes against Tulane, Houston, and Temple, then what makes you think the lanes are going to be there
Because in the middle of
for
this middle of the
Tennessee?
game, that's where the lanes have started to open up for Oklahoma as they started getting going and they do things. He only gets like the first series and then he's gone and we don't see him again until the third quarter.
So would you rather have Javante Barnes start and then maybe the third quarterback be
I think
Jack?
it would be interesting to see if you flipped it around to see what would happen. Yeah, I do.
I think I look, if you're going balls to the wall this weekend and you're trying to legit put your best foot forward to try and beat Tennessee, I think you start Tatum. I think Tatum is the guy that trots out there for the first couple drives of the game. And if he's got his
I
head on
wouldn't hate
straight,
on that. I wouldn't hate on
yeah,
that.
well, and if he's got his head on straight and he's blocking, he's actually blocking, then I think you can continue to ride that
Mm-hmm.
throughout the course of the game because I think he offers the most complete skill set in that backfield. And he's got burst, man. He's got juice. We've seen it through 3 weeks. Again, that is the most high ceiling option, in my opinion. But if 2 drives into the game, he's still a liability as a pass blocker, then you can revert to the law firm of Sawchuk and Barnes. And I think that'll be just fine. But to me, I think, if you are truly trying to put your best players in position to make the best plays to go and win you a game against a top flight opponent, I think you gotta trust the kid based on what he's shown through 3 weeks to be able to get things shored up as a pass blocker and also trust that what he brings to this offense, not just as a rusher, but as a receiver, is going to unlock a dimension in this offense that just really hasn't been there to this point.
Doesn't it kind of epitomize that life comes at you fast in college football, that what we saw in 2022 and 2023 from Barnes or particularly Sawchuk and Barnes, and now people are just kind of like, yeah, let's move on to somebody else. Like they were the future. They
Oh,
were the future, and they were going to be the best tandem Oklahoma's had since Mixon and Pirine, and now it's like, let's just throw somebody else out there. Like
well, I
it's
think
crazy.
with last year's offensive line, with Rame and Rouse and Caden Green late in the year, opening up that left side, like, yeah, I think Sawchuk, again, if you give Sawchuk a lane, he's a home run hitter. He is, wildly fast. He's put on good muscle this year. Like absolutely. It's just,
He's Kennedy Brooks with speed, is what he is.
well, it's just,
Patient.
I don't know. Kennedy Brooks, I feel like could run into the somehow the back of his center and still pick up 8 yards. I don't know how the guy did it, but it's like the like I think it's just Gavin Sawchuk has just been given so much less of a chance to hit home runs because of the offensive line. I don't think Gavin Sawchuk can't run the ball anymore. I think Gavin Sawchuk is the same running back we had last year. It's just we're not the same offensive line we had last year. So you have to adjust to the situation. And I think that Taylor Tatum right now offers you the best, I don't know, the best back for this particular situation. Now, if
Right.
Branson Hickman comes back and say EPL or Ozida starts, bullying dudes at that left guard, and Sexton starts playing in his left tackle spot that he's supposed to have been in the last 2 years, then of course, then Sawchuk's like, okay, here we go, let's go hit some home runs. So, like, I'm not saying that put Sawchuk on the shelf or put Barnes on the shelf or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but until the offensive line can give Sawchuk the lane he needs to hit the home run consistently, then you've got to shuffle around your options, in my opinion. But I'm not putting anybody on the shelf 4 games into the season. I'm just
Yeah.
saying what
Well,
we've seen through 3, we need to adjust accordingly.
and to that point, I think that what Tatum has demonstrated is that he's got the most capacity to make something out of nothing. And you got to have somebody out there who's capable of making something out of nothing given the current state of your offensive line. And if things get a whole lot better on Saturday with Hickman and Everett in the fold once again, then great. But you can't count on that until you see it.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, let's do it. We've talked enough about this. Well, real quickly,
Okay.
Jackson Arnold, Nico Amialava, or say it properly.
Iamaleava.
Iamaleava, Nico Iamaleava. Oh my God, I just that's
Ia Ma Lee
I got it. Mali Lava. I got it. Yeah, it's just, did I not say it right?
No, you did not.
Mali Lava. Is that right?
That was close enough. We'll accept it.
Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. All right. Those two are both like, that 2023 class of quarterbacks is insane, guys. Dante Moore, obviously he's not starting over Dylan Gabriel, but we all know he's going to be special at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You got Nico. That's all I'm going to say. You got Jackson Arnold. You got Manning, right? And I'm sure there's somebody else I'm missing out the top of my head. Malachi. Oh, in K-State.
Avery Johnson. Yeah.
Avery Johnson. That class may end up being one of the best classes of all time at this rate. Like it's on pace. But we got a great matchup between, I would argue, outside of Manning and Moore, two at the top, if not the two best quarterbacks coming out of that 23 class, at least when they came out that year. Jackson Arnold won the Elite 11. He was the MVP Gatorade Player of the Year, National Player of the Year, all that. He won all the awards. This matchup between them could be something that we watch over the next 2 or 3 years. Do y'all see this as like a kind of an opening showcase of what could be down the road? SEC title games down the road potentially, all that type of stuff just between those two, because they're so talented. They're both so talented. One's played better than the other so far, but we all know Jackson is Jackson Arnold, and we've seen him when he's really, really good. I mean, he was very, very good last year against Arizona. He had his pitfalls as a freshman, but he was slinging that thing for almost 400 yards last year against one of the top teams in the country. So we think the upside's there, right? For both, right?
Mm-hmm.
How excited are y'all to see that matchup between them? Like, I'm excited. Like, I think this is just it's just a precursor of what's to come down the road.
Well, these two and Arch Manning, I think because of the conference that they play in and the fact that they were peers in the 2023 class, they're kind of always going to be joined at the hip in a certain sense for many people. And yeah, this is a really, really exciting opportunity to get an early gauge on whether Arnold or Iamaleava is further along developmentally. And they're both true sophomores. They both played a little bit last year. They both started the bowl game. But in many ways, this is the first true test for each of these guys. It's Nico's first road start. It's going to be Jackson's first start against an opponent of Tennessee's caliber, not to dismiss Arizona because that was a good team by the end of last season. But I think most would argue, or I guess most wouldn't have a problem with the statement that Tennessee right now in 2024 is all around a better football team than Arizona was in 2023, even at the end of the season when the Wildcats were playing their best football. So, yeah, big time litmus test for these two quarterbacks, and a game that no doubt is going to be used down the line for who knows how long to compare these two to one another, regardless of what they do the rest of the season.
No, what do you think, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, I think the SEC is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I mean, per usual, but next year when you've got, Lagway in Florida, who's
Lagway, yeah,
wildly talented. You've got Arch, you've got Jackson, you've got Nico. Sure, there's a lot of orange in there, but I don't know. I don't get too far into the quarterback versus quarterback things. I mean, obviously we see the Brady Manning and the Allen Mahomes and this, that, and the other. I always like many have said, the quarterbacks don't play against each other. They're not on the field at the same time. But it will be fun to see if there's some type of one-upping going on, because they're going to be compared to each other, and it's it's in every class you get it between Trey and Luca, you get it between that people get linked throughout their whole careers to each other, and the 5 stars from that class will always be that way. So I'm excited. I think this game comes down to the defenses a lot more, but yeah, the storyline, as you said earlier, Jackson Arnold will get the credit or the blame. to go along with the head coach and the coordinators. Fair or unfair, a lot of people still think wins are a quarterback stat.
Okay. Totally agree. Let's do this real quick. Let's make our picks real quick. We'll start. I just want to do then Illinois, Nebraska, the Michigan, USC, Oklahoma State, Utah, and then OU, Tennessee. I think it's really fair. 4 games, real quick, get them out of the way. So we'll start with Illinois at Nebraska. It is number 24 at number 22. Parker, your Huskers. And I know they're not your Huskers, but you're from Nebraska. So I'll let you go first.
I like the Huskers to win this game. Look, the back half of that schedule is daunting. Let's not get it twisted. Nebraska is still going to face an uphill battle once they really start to sink their teeth into the meat of this Big Ten slate. But I do think they're all around a better football team than Illinois. They get them on their home field. I like Nebraska to take care of business.
Yeah, I agree. I think I had Nebraska starting like 7-0 or something like that. The early schedule is too easy, and I like Raiola a lot. I think I don't think Nebraska is back by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they take care of business against Illinois.
Yeah, I like Nebraska. I think pretty simple. I think Dylan Raiola has the Illinois defense is decent, pretty good. But I think Dylan Raiola he's starting to get in the groove of things and be a really talented guy. We didn't even name him as far as freshman coming in this year, but I know he's a 24 guy, but it's still a freshman.
I tried to stick to SEC on mine, and unless conference
Yeah.
realignment gets really crazy, I don't think Nebraska is going to be in the SEC.
I don't think they are either.
Who knows,
Anyways,
man?
yeah, we'll go
and
Nebraska.
Raiola, I mean, he's looked pretty solid thus far, but he hasn't really been tested. That
No.
won't come till later on.
Oh, you don't think Illinois' defense will test him much?
A little bit. I mean, Brett Bielema is a decent coach, but you know who actually looks pretty solid right now in the Big Ten. I knew they were going to get good again. I never knew how good, and I didn't know how quickly, but Indiana looks solid through 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Kurt Signetti, man, he can coach.
He's pretty good, man. All right. Let's go with USC and Michigan. Michigan, I don't know what the spread is, but I'm pretty sure USC is favored. So,
I think USC is favored by 6 as of yesterday.
Yeah. So what do y'all got? I'll just go ahead and say it. I think USC is going to shellac them.
Really?
I just think Michigan's, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, Big Blue. I hope I'm wrong, guys. I love me some Sharon Moore, but they have no offense. Like, if you think Oklahoma's struggling on offense, try being a Michigan fan.
Yeah. Well, Michigan
Michigan
has benched Davis Warren. They are in orgy mode now. And
you've been waiting to say this the whole podcast. Parker's been waiting.
I didn't know we were going to talk about Michigan. I had no idea we were going
to. Travis is red.
You can't say that in front of Brandon.
I know. No. I knew what Brandon's reaction was going to be. Sometimes
I wanted him to have a number 69. Like, could you imagine his last name's Orgy and have 69 as a quarterback number? That would be awesome.
Like Devin Gardner, where he wore 98 at Michigan.
Yes. All right. Anyways,
I think Michigan wins the football game.
Ooh.
Wow. Yeah, I think USC wins in a close one. But so I would be picking Michigan to cover the spread, but not win outright would be where I'm at on that game.
Fair enough. And then the other one in the state of Oklahoma, like the 2 best games probably in the state or in the college football outside of USC, Michigan, is Utah going to Stillwater for the first time as a Big 12 conference opponent. Guys, I think I love Mike Gundy. I think he is a treasure. He's a national treasure. He is to everybody. That dude needs a statue. He needs whatever at Oklahoma State at some point in time. But I think I'm going to go with Utah. And it's not because I just like Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State's a really good team. Ollie Gordon's awesome. Big fan of a lot of their players, but I just think Utah knows how to win the big ball games on the road. That's what they do. Like
Yeah,
they change the game every time. They make you play their game, and I think they'll do it again.
they're a tough football team. They're a good football team. They're going to
Mhm.
contend for a Big 12 title. I actually like Oklahoma State to hold serve on their home field in this
Mm.
contest, though. I think it's a close one, but to me, this is one of those games where it's almost, and we see it so many times every single year with Oklahoma State. It's almost unexplainable how they manage to hang around and wind up on top in the end. But I think that's exactly what the Cowboys do on Saturday. I think they
Gonna
get the better of Utah in a thriller.
I'm going with Whittingham because I've learned to not doubt him in big games on the road. Um, Oklahoma State, not unlike a lot of Oklahoma teams over the last 15 years, 20 years, always have that like inexplicable loss. Last year they had
Now
two
that is true.
and they got rocked by South Alabama and then embarrassed by UCF, which I think is UCF's biggest win as a Big 12 program still. Um, I like Utah in it. I think Oklahoma State's offense is good. I think it's fine. I think Alan Bowman, like I said, has been playing football just as long as Cam Rising has forever. Former Bob Stoops commit Cam
Yep.
Rising.
Yep.
Um, I think that Oklahoma State's defense is going to be the story in this one. I don't think Oklahoma State's defense is good enough, and I think they'll end up costing them the game late. I got Utah.
All right. And now to the big one, the one that we've been talking about this whole podcast. Oklahoma is a 7-point dog as we are recording right now on Saturday night, 6:45 p.m. kickoff, 6:30 p.m. kickoff is around there, something like that. On it's ABC, correct? ABC. I don't
That
ever
is
pay attention to
correct.
that stuff because we're there. So, um, yeah, ABC. Um, how do y'all see this game playing out? Y'all's thoughts? Anybody? Anybody? Takers?
I'll go ahead first.
Go
So
ahead, Travis.
I
Yeah.
think I think that it's lower scoring for Tennessee than any of their games so far. But
Mhm.
I mean, it would be impossible for it not to for Oklahoma to have a chance. But I do think I think Seth Luttrell's been holding things back. I think he said as much when he said, "Hey, we didn't want to get into the quarterback run game, this early. We were kind of holding that back." I think he's been holding back a ton. I think that he understands the importance in his career to go against a top defense and do something about it. This is a guy that, was just fired at North Texas, spends a year as an analyst. Now he's offensive coordinator. Like, I think this game, if the offense performs well, I think everybody will say, man, offensive line's hurt, wide receivers are hurt, freshman quarterback, and Luttrell was able to do that against a Tennessee defense. I think he understands like that's one of those that goes on like the bio of his like next coaching announcement, right? So I think he understands holding back, holding back. I think they've held players out. I think they've held plays out specifically for this game. I think the OU offense looks better than it has looked, and I think Venables. I think this is again a culmination of 3 years worth of work. To hey, we need a statement to show I'm still that dude on defense. I think
Mhm.
Oklahoma wins the ball game 35-31.
Wow. And see, this is exactly why I wanted Travis to go first, because now I don't seem like the only sunshine pumper on this podcast. I'm picking Oklahoma as well. I think the Sooners win this
I now
football
have
game.
to pick Tennessee, guys. I hate y'all.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to. You
No,
can
we
be
can't all three
intellectually
pick
honest.
Oklahoma.
Go ahead. Take whoever you want to take. Take whoever you actually think is going to win this football game. Because I actually think Oklahoma's going to win this football game. I look, I feel exactly the same about this game right now as I did going into the season. Uh, I I have watched too much college football. I have learned enough lessons over the years to put too much stock into what happens in non-conference play. I'm not saying there are
Mhm.
never lessons to be learned from non-conference play, but as we experienced with this Oklahoma team back in 2022, for instance, sometimes you can get a little bit of fool's gold in non-con play. And
Mhm.
is Tennessee as devastating as they have looked so far through 3 games? I don't think so. Is Oklahoma as rough as they have looked through 3 games? No, I don't think so. I think these two teams match up very well on paper. I think it's going to be a tight football game that goes down to the wire. I think it's going to be a low scoring game in which both defenses play well. And ultimately, the deciding factor for me, I think what tips the scales and makes me more confident than Oklahoma and Tennessee is the fact that Oklahoma gets the benefit of home field advantage. If this game is getting played in Neyland Stadium, I'd probably take Tennessee. But as it is, I'm going with the Sooners, 20-16. That's my pick, Brandon.
Ooh, okay.
All right. I agree. I'm going to take Oklahoma. I'm just going to do it. I'm taking
Wow,
Oklahoma.
clean sweep. We're all
Well,
homers,
see, no,
baby.
here's the deal is I thought I was going to be, I thought one of you would take Oklahoma. And so I was like, well, I'm going to be one of the few that doesn't. I thought Parker would be the one that took Tennessee and Travis would be the one, the voice of the fan would be the one that took Oklahoma. And I was like, I'm going to take him because I've been saying it since probably Monday afternoon that I felt like Sunday, I thought Tennessee would win by like 10 points. Monday, I woke up and I was like, you know what? My gut is telling me Oklahoma's going to win this ball game, and I don't know why. And as I dove deeper and deeper, and I kept texting, Parker, you know this, in our OU Insider group text, a lot of these stats and facts and everything. And I just felt like Oklahoma matched up well with Tennessee. I felt like the defense can do a lot of things with the crowd's help, which means the crowd's going to have to help. The OU fans are going to have to be loud the whole game. Can really do things to really confuse Nico, to really put him on his heels. He misses. I watched 2 games and he misses. When he misses high. And what notoriously happens against Oklahoma's defense if you miss high? Who's waiting back there? Billy Bowman. He's notorious for you miss high. It always, because he's always in the right spot at the right time and he gets an interception. I think the turnovers, he's thrown 2 picks against the teams that they've played so far, which tells me right now that he's susceptible. He's 6 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's not like, I think if you look at it for what it is, he probably is susceptible for a few things if he can be confused. He's a young quarterback. He's a great quarterback, but he's still young. And so I think the crowd, I think the defense throwing a lot of things at him that he hasn't seen, really mixing coverages up, doing all kinds of stuff. Really helps Oklahoma to force a turnover or 2 that I think is the difference in the ball game. I think Jackson Arnold plays his best ball game all season. And I don't mean with his legs, I think with his arms. I think he feels more comfortable with Nick Anderson out there. It opens things up for Jake Roberts and Bauer Sharp. I believe that. I think R. Mason Thomas really, really continues his streak. I think he gets a sack, maybe a sack and a half. And I think the defense, I think Stutzman gets a sack. I think that's how this thing plays out. At the end of the day, I'm going to say it, and it's going to sound wild. I think Keltner hits a game-winning field goal and Oklahoma wins.
Okay, that's where you lost me.
28-27. I know, I'm kidding. No,
Come on,
seriously.
play with your chest. Don't be afraid.
No. I really was joking. I was waiting because Parker is like the anti-Keltner guy. So
No, I actually like Keltner, and he's.
I know you do,
honestly,
but you're
like,
always calling him out for his. You're like he's due a miss, man. He's 75% his whole career. Like you're like counting his misses. So he's due for this.
He's 5 for 6. That means he goes what, 1 for 2? Saturday
exactly
night?
why I
It's one, misses
made that
one.
joke. Thank you. You said thank you for clarifying my joke to you. Anyways, I think Oklahoma does win 28-25 or 28-24, excuse me, 28-24. I think a turnover, late turnover, Oklahoma capitalizes off of it and wins the ball game 28-24. It's kind of a low scoring game for these 2 teams. Obviously, I think particularly for Tennessee. So, it's going to be a fun ball game. I think you're going to see a lot of swings, right? Momentum swings that are going to make it fun. And it's going to show that both these 2 teams are 2 of the better teams in the SEC when it's all said and done. 28-24.
All right.
There you go. All right.
It's a wrap.
That's a wrap. I want to thank King for sponsoring all of our content and podcasts on OU Insider. If you are not subscribed to this YouTube channel or our podcasts, click that like, click that subscribe, click that notification button, give us 5 stars, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you like the content that we're bringing to you guys each and every day. There's been a bunch of great content. Cousin Shane's been on with us this week. We got a video with him breaking down Tennessee. He's a big Tennessee fan from that SEC podcast, one of the biggest college football podcasts in the United States. We have Dusty Dvorak, ESPN, Sirius XM Radio, KREF. He has been on with us this week. He broke down the Tulane and previewed the Tennessee game with us. We've got the sideline pass with Parker. We have your tailgating food. If you like tailgate food, Travis has got it for you over on our distinguished YouTube channel. And on top of that, we've got all the post-game, post-practice, all those interviews are right there on OU Insider, plus all the podcasts, Barry and Mac, Oklahoma Drill, and obviously the Under the Visor podcasts. So go to the YouTube channel, go to our podcasts, like, subscribe, hit that notification button, hit that 5-star, hit that thumbs up, whatever you got to do. Get us to 20,000 before the season's over. We're almost to 17,000 on YouTube right now. Go to ouinsider.com. If you're a college student, hit us up, ouinsider@rivals.com. Email us. We will send you a promo code for you to get OU Insider for 1 year for $11.95, not even $1 a month. Again, ouinsider@rivals.com. Email us from your .edu, and we will email you back a promo code so that you can get OU Insider VIP, all the recruiting news, all the team info, all the injury stuff before it even comes out in availability. You knew it if you were on OU Insider. You can have that for just $11.95 for the whole year. Again, OU Insider @rivals.com from a .edu. We will send you the promo code. Rest of you fans, go to ouinsider.com, sign up, $9.95 a month, $99.95 for the whole year. For Parker Thune, for Travis Davidson, my name is Brandon Drum. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners pregame podcast. We will see you on the postgame.